Welcome to the second video of this three-part series on how to make this miniature bullwhip. In today's video, we're going to be covering how to make the first belly. This is the first and only belly of this whip, so you can pretty much blow through this in about 20 to 30 minutes. With all of that said, let's head back into the garage and let's make it. Alright, so in the previous episode I showed you how to create the core of this mini bullwhip. So now we're going to make a first belly, and really the only thing you need for this is more paracord. So we're going to stick our core in the vise and start cutting our whip length strands. Alright. So for the belly strands, we're going to need 2 7-foot, 1 6-foot, and 1 5-foot. I'll have a little thing in the description down below where you can see the cord lengths, or you can go on over to Bombastic Whips and the whip maker tool. If you select 4-foot bullwhip, it'll be there. So I'll catch you back when we cut the 2 7-foot, 1 6-foot, and 1 5-foot strand. Alrighty, so what we have here is our core, our 2 7-foot, our 1 6-foot, and our 1 5-foot. So what we're going to do with this now is we're going to remove the inner strands from each strand, and the easiest way I've found to do this is if you have like a hook or something in your workbench. Personally, I do. If you have one of these, it's super easy to attach straight to. And then you can just walk away from it, and it'll slightly pull the whip strings lengths with you. Alright, so 6-foot, 5-foot, 2 7-foot, and they are all gutted now, which means we can move on. We can finally start braiding. Now this is fun. This might be intimidating. Don't let this catch you off guard, because it will. If this is your first time braiding, I'll take it very slow for you so that you can get the grasp and handle of it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our 2 strands, or our 4 strands, and find their middles. So we should, ironically, end up with 8 strands. So I'm going to find the ends, run my fingers through, find the middle. And once I found the middle, I'm going to just lay it here on the vise, like so. I'm going to reposition this vise, like so. And we're going to find the middle of our 6-foot. Perfect. Alright, so what we're going to start to do is, I believe this is an 8-plat. Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our bottom 2. Now this can be in any order. It doesn't matter which lengths they're. Going to cross 2 of them. Bring the 2 around the back. The 2 under 2. Over 2, and pull. Beautiful. Now we're going to take the first one here, around the back, under these 2, over the other 2. And this will start our herringbone pattern. I'm going to undo the vise a little bit, bring it back, And now, since we just did this one, we're going to do this top. An easy way to remember this is whichever this way, if it's this way or if it's the other way, whichever one you just did, it will always point up to the one you have to do next. So we're going to follow this. It's going to point up to this side, so we're going to take the very top, go under 2, and over 2. Beautiful. Now I'm going to pull these really tight. Again, we can see this one is pointing up, so it's going to be this side. We can kind of tell because it's over, and it's going to come under and over 2. Pull really tight, and we're going to go with this side. Oops. Going to go with this side, up, over, under 2, over 2. And that is how we're going to start it. Now, we're going to keep doing this for about an inch. Alright, now, since we have about an inch here, we're going to actually push this up past the actual end. So you can feel here there's no rigid handle. I'm going to push it up just a little more. This is going to be because at the end we're actually going to cut off right where the end is, and we're going to seal it. That'll hold them all in place, and we'll also add a little bit for our heel foundation. It'll be flat and smooth opposed to round and bumpy. Now we're going to, instead of doing under 2 over 2 with one strand, we're going to take the top 2, go around, under 2, over 2. We're going to do the exact same for the other side too. Now we are going to want to, after a couple plats, make sure everything is super duper tight. Once we get off of the handle, you can start to loosen up, but the first few inches really need to be as tight as you can get them. Alright, now we're going to undo, bring it to the bottom, oops, to the bottom here. We're going to cramp it. And we're going to keep going. Now we're going to do this 2 pass. We're going to keep going with the 2 on each side until we get down to this here, where it starts to get bendy, where it transitions. So once we get down to the transition, we're going to move back to the 1 strand instead of the 2. So I'll catch you when we get down to the transition. Now the under 2 over 2 is pretty fast. You can kind of blow through this. I kind of like the look of the this up here, so the 1 strand under 1 over 1. So I'm actually going to transition back to it. Just, you don't have to until we get down. This is pretty, it's a tight weave when you go with 1 strand. That's why we do it at the transition. That way we have maximum, because all the tension is right where those BBs meet the metal. So we want to take as much strain as we can off of that so that it doesn't break. As you start to get a little bit faster with this, you will be able to make more in a lot less time. When I first started off, this took me a bit. I was pretty good at it, but it took me a bit. So don't let that discourage you if you're slow at this and you need a little bit more time, because everybody's slightly different. Alright, so we've gotten to the area where the steel, literally right here, where the steel meets the BB. Now all we're going to do is keep plaiting like this, except we might pull a little bit harder, because this part of the whip, like I said, it experiences the most amount of weight. The end, the cracker, experiences the most overall because it's breaking the speed of sound. However, we are putting a lot of force on this transition here. So I will be going a little bit harder here. So my camera actually died. I didn't do anything else to the whip. Just keep going down. Just plugged it in. Started the video back up. We're going to literally continue doing this until we reach the BB portion. So to let my camera charge a little bit, I'll see you back when we reach the end of the BB section. Alrighty, so we have gotten all the way down to, wow, pulled that strand in, the end BB, and we're going to keep going until we hit the 14-inch mark, which is about there. So all I'm going to do is take a Sharpie. Beautiful. So now we're going to plate all the way down until we reach that mark. And then we're going to drop our first strand. Now, thankfully we're doing a belly drop and not a overlay drop. Overlay drops, you have to drop in to the, you have to drop inwards. For overlay strands, it's really nice because you can just forget about it. You can leave it go. You can let it go and just let it do its own thing, and I'll show you what I mean in a second when we get down to that mark. So again, we'll hit a little time lapse. You can see the strands, we're almost to this mark. You can see the strands naturally are bunching up, and that tells you that you want to drop a strand soon. So even if you didn't have the measurements, you could kind of eyeball it, because the strands will start to clump together and not be manageable. But once we drop a strand, it'll be a lot better. Alright, so here you can actually see my shortest strand is here on the top, which is exactly what we want. So I'm going to do one more full pass through, and then we're going to drop the shortest strand on our right hand side. Alright, we're almost there. Alright, now we have the shortest one on the top, and you know what we're going to do with it? Forget about it. It's going to be so good. So now we're going to take this one, go around under 1 over 2, and that's our new plaiting pattern. Get out of here, we don't want you. We'll come back and we'll trim it later, but that's how we drop underbelly strands. And then instead of taking this one around, we're going to take this one around behind. We're going to keep plaiting about it, and we're literally going to forget that that strand even exists. So now we're going to go down about 1/2 inch till the next shortest one on our left hand side is on the top. So right now it's on the 3rd position. So we're just going to keep plaiting until we get there. Alright, and our shortest one is on the top, and we're going to forget about it. That's simple. Go around. Oh, man. I moved my masking tape. That's what you get. There we go. Perfect. when we get to about 17 inches, we'll drop our next longest strand. Okay, we're not quite there yet, but we're almost there. Alright, we've reached about that 17-inch mark. So now we're actually going to drop into the belly. Alright. So this is our short one. We want it to be on the bottom. So we're going to keep going. So one more, and it'll be on the bottom. Alright, now we're going to go 1, 2, and now it's in the middle. This is where we want it from the... We're going to swing it down into the core, and we're going to continue. Now we're going to go under 1, over 1. Pull pretty tight on that. And then still going under 1, over 2. Sweet. And then at 19 inches, we're going to do the exact same thing, except on the other side. Alright, and we're about at that 19-inch mark. The shortest one is on the top, so we're going to keep going until it's again in the middle. We're almost there. One more. Beautiful. Now the shortest one is in the middle. We'll give it a firm pull, swing it down under, and now we're doing under 1, over 1. On the other side, under 1, over 1. We're now back to even. Alright, now the one we did before went down a bit. Now we're going to cut that right there. Perfect. And once we get to 21 inches, 21 inches, somewhere in the middle there, we're going to cut the inside, this strand here, and we're going to braid over nothing. That's going to give us a nice even taper. And we've hit about 21 inches. And we're going to cut this really carefully. And now we're just going to do under 1, over 1, and braid over nothing. Now if this is your first time, this might be a little tricky because you're braiding again over nothing. So just keep working at it, keep going. Pull tight, not too tight though, and you'll be fine. At 24 inches, we're going to stop braiding. That's exactly 2 feet. And we're going to stop almost, just got about an inch. And just like that, we've hit 23 inches. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go down. I'm going to grab some painter's tape. Now this won't stay here, however I am just going to tie that right there so our strands don't unravel. And now we're going to pull this out. We're going to pull this strand. We're going to cut it, and we're going to grab our lighter. We're going to grab our lighter, grab it, burn it. I gotta refill my lighter. Got the flame we wanted. Alright, lick your thumb, push it down. Try not to burn yourself. We're going to do the same thing. Close the lighter up. We're going to pull tight, snip, and burn. Now if you don't want to do this with your thumbs, you can just use your scissors or some flat metal object. Beautiful. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to stick it back in. We're going to grab our artificial sinew. And we're going to start a couple inches down. Start it. Wrap it around. Perfect. And we're just going to go on those little crevices. Pulling. And we're just going to go all the way down the whip. All the way down. Now we're going to put some pressure into this. Not a ton, but some. So make sure you're still pulling. Bring this up a little bit into preview. This is for the transition. However, we are still going to go down. Wrapping this pretty lightly. Not too hard. Trying to get into some of those little crevices. Now we're going to go all the way down to where we dropped our first strand. Might be a little bump, that's okay. And don't be too afraid to wrap generously. You can always buy more artificial sinew. You can't always buy back the time you spent. Well, you can't buy back the time you spent on the whip if you realize your binding wasn't good enough. Alright, so I got it down to about here. I'd say about 1.5 feet down this whip, and all I'm going to do is bring it all the way back up. Now this wrap is going to be a little bit tighter than the last one. Pull in a little bit tighter as we come up. Filling in some of the spaces that we haven't wrapped, trying to get like an X pattern. Coming up on the wall, go back down. Still pulling pretty generously now, because we're back almost up at the transition. This is going to act as our bolster if you've seen someone make a, say, a kangaroo whip or something like that. It's going to act as their bolster. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up and then go back down. Now we're not going to go all the way back down. We're going to go just a couple inches down. And we're going to go down. We're going to go down. And we're going to go up. And we're just trying to bolster that transition here. Trying to get places we haven't been already. I'm going to go back up. You go down and up and down and up and down and up. Each time missing a couple inches. Pulling tighter and tighter each time you go around. Alright, now we're going to use the same trick I taught you beforehand. take a little loop, go underneath, go over, 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 and just like that. Gonna cut that, stick that in the little loop. Oop, there goes the flashlight. And pull. Alright, so the second and last thing we're going to do is we're just going to wrap the top up here. We're just going to wrap it pretty tightly. That way this all stays right there, nice and secure for our overlay. Nice and tight. And that's all we're going to do. Now we're not going to do the thread trick because this is waxy, it'll stick on itself. That's perfectly fine. The last thing we're going to do though is taper out these strands. So I'm going to go about down here, about an inch down from the tape. Then I'm going to go another inch down, cutting at a slight angle, another inch down, kind of eyeballing this, and then one more inch down. Might cut this one just a little less, this one a little less. And now all that's left to do is to roll this. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a nice hard surface and roll this back and forth. This will tighten everything up and allow it to just hold together a little bit better. Alright, so now after some heavy rolling, you can see the bolster really nice, pretty nice arch, doesn't flex too much. Remember the pivot joint's there, so the bolster is really nice. And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, this is the first belly completed. If you have any questions about this, please drop them in the comment section down below. I will try to get to them as soon as possible. Subscribe if you haven't already, and it's time to move on to the overlay. So go watch part 3 where we do the overlay and the accent knots. I'll see you in number 3.